So HPOZ, for all the people that don't know what that is, it stands for Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. And as I recall, it was the only vehicle that the city of Los Angeles had for designating an area historic. Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's part of the zoning code, and what it establishes is another layer of review by a neighborhood board that works from a preservation plan. It's not just people making stuff up. There's a very specific set of guidelines that is reviewed as a part of the building permit process. And when you apply for a building permit, then that triggers that process. And yes, it's another layer of something to do, but in the long run, it saves people a lot of money.
It's also, some people have, since the HPOZ designation has happened, people I know who have gone in front of the board, they think of it as like free advice, architectural advice.
It is free advice. It's free advice, and it's also becoming a collection of solutions for things appropriate to older houses. So it's becoming a resource for the community where they can come in and find out what to do with their windows, or where did you get that roof material, or how do you do this detail, or what color is that concrete. So that's part of the fun of it, where it's becoming very collegial, and it's a design resource.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's another layer
It's
that
a great thing.
has been really helpful.
It's a great thing. So the design board is, the HPOZ board, what does that consist of?
It is consisted of, there are 5 people. 3 of them need to live in the neighborhood. You need a real estate professional, a licensed architect, someone who's well-versed in construction. A contractor would be nice. You have an at-large member of the neighborhood who has had some experience either on community boards or working in the preservation community. And then it's also good to have another design professional, because it really is, you really are solving design problems. So we've ended up with a great board. People are appointed by cultural heritage, the council office, the mayor. So the people are vetted. You just don't have somebody hopping
Off
on
the
the board.
street,
Yeah,
yeah.
off the street. They have to specifically meet that criteria. And then the board is managed by city planning. So the board puts together a recommendation, and it's submitted to city planning and their historic resource group, and then they will write the recommendation as a part of the building permit, and that becomes part of the, history of the property, so that the next owners can know what the intention was, what the work does, how it was done. So it really starts to build a wonderful file for the property that's
Yeah.
public record. And all this is public, it's public input, because each house or project is evaluated independently. And while you'd think that this would be a big burden, because there are about 1,100 homes here,
Windsor Square. Right.
there's only about, 20 or maybe even not that many projects that end up before the board, because everything else is either exempt, paint and all these things that come and go, that doesn't matter. It's only when someone wants to make a significant change to the architecture of the house that's visible from the street. That's the only thing that they have jurisdiction over. So it's very limited, and that was another feature of our HPOZ, is that it was limited, and that made it more manageable.
I remember that things like landscaping and paint
Yeah.
color,
Yeah,
everybody was exempt from that.
Any kind of repair, any kind of, replacing like for like, any of that stuff, you don't want to get bogged down in that. Lighting is exempt,
But windows, how about windows in this one?
windows, if you're replacing the windows with the same thing, that's exempt. But sometimes people want to pop a bay out, or they want to change it out and have French doors across the front, or enclose their front porch. And it's not that you can't do something, it's really about how you do it, so that it's consistent with the existing architecture. So that the notion that the board is saying, no, you can't do that. Well, if that ever happens, it's usually because you're trying to change Spanish Revival house into a Tudor surprise, and no.
Tudor surprise, I like that.
You cannot do that. So,
but a man's home is his castle.
yeah, big castle, really
Real big castle, I know. Oh
So-
man, that was so funny. I know, that was, seeing a few, and there are some homes that we naturally drive by in the neighborhood, and we're
we
like,
have called
why?
those.
Why did they do that?
Well,
You know?
it ended up, even those houses worked in our favor, because people said, how did that happen? I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's what can happen. We
Yes.
don't have, a HPOZ, so.
And I noticed some of the folk who were in the opposition, when we kind of like investigated or took a look at where
Mhm.
they were, it was like you could understand why they maybe not
Yeah.
were interested in having
Yeah.
this thing
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
So,
There's that, there was that.
you know.
But, I think that because it was a community effort, and instead of telling people what they needed, we kept asking people what they wanted, and that's what built our preservation plan. So at the end of it, there are always gonna be people that are unhappy, but it was a very small number.
Very small.
But that small number still sued the city.
Yeah, I remember.
You asked me to, no, and, had to go through the process again, but it was reinstated and any of the technicalities were corrected, so in the end, it's better,
Yeah.
stronger.
Absolutely.
And now, there's twice as many HPOCs as there were when we were doing ours.
Really?
Yep.
Look how many? We were like at
There's
14.
20, no, there's like 24,
But at the time, I think
26.
we were like the 13th or 14th.
Yeah, so all the work that we did was built upon for these other communities, and I think it's been a good thing.
I'll never forget at those large meetings, especially at Marlboro, for this HPZ situation, Carolyn Ramsey, who was the president of the Windsor Square Association at the time, saying, all those in favor of the HPZ, please stand up. And this whole auditorium stood up, and she said, and then you can sit down. Now, anyone who's not in for it, please stand up, and like, it was intimidating for like the couple that
The few
were,
people.
yeah, it was a shame. Anyway, but.
Yeah, but
it
people
was-
had legitimate concerns, and it was the balancing of those concerns that tailored ours to make it work for the neighborhood, and I would say it's working.
Now, how many, you mentioned earlier about doing homes in Hancock Park yourself, and how many homes would you say that you've worked on
How many
in?
projects?
Yeah, in this area.
I don't really know, Richard, but I'm sure it's more than 50 or 60
Really?
through the years, little projects and big projects. And most of the project that I do is, in the older homes, they have the kitchens with the 2 maids' rooms in the back, and it was closed off from the backyard, and that's not how we live. So it's redoing the kitchen, which usually they're just worn out, you need to redo them, and then opening it up to the garden.
Right.
And I've done that quite a few times in different imaginations depending on the house or what the owners want, but that's really brought these houses into the 21st century.
And actually brought them out into the original intention, which was specifically with Windsor Square, that it was created to look like an English garden, so it's kind of bringing the
People are
outside.
connected, and people have huge gardens.
Yeah.
For the most part, these big, deep lots, so, and that's been interesting, that most of these homes have a similar floor plan because it was designed with the kitchens on the north because it's cooler,
Oh, yeah?
and so,
Who would have thought that? Really?
yeah, no, there's a similar pattern that you'd see. And a lot of the homes, if you just keep that original design with the air flowing through it, you barely need air conditioning. The way they were so beautifully designed, it's the trash truck.
Luca, maybe we should close that door. Close the front door, maybe?
Yeah.
That'd be great. And then,
Talk about trash.
I know the phone is ringing too.
Yeah.
Oh, we're bound to have this.
Yes.
It's
Yes, it's a vibrant neighborhood.
It's conversation in
with all
Hancock
kinds of
Park is
stuff.
what it is. Anyway, this is a great knowledge here. So we'll probably close in a second here. And what else? What else do you want to talk about?
What else?
What's
Well,
on
I
the agenda?
appreciate you doing all of this.
You know, it's just,
because you were what Richard did is he connected a lot of different people that didn't know each other. So he was part of the whole community building effort going door to door.
Really? Oh, that's right, you
You
know?
see, you didn't even remember that.
Yeah,
Passing out flowers. So
I remember getting almost swung at by someone on Lower Norton, actually.
well, we sent you out to take the arrows. You were much better than that, than the rest of us. So
No, it was fun. It was a
it's a
nice
good
group of
effort.
people, and the aim was to preserve the neighborhood, and we got what we wanted, and that was great.
I think so, for years to come. So
Cool.
thank you for everything you do.
I just want to thank Mary Pickhardt for being with us on this this beginnings of Hancock Park conversation, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, thank you,
All
Richard.
right, thank you.
Very fun.
Okay.